Today we're graphing absolute value equations. An absolute value equation is a V-shaped graph that points upward or downward. We're going to be translating the absolute value equations, and a translation is a shift of a graph horizontally, vertically, or both, that results in a graph of the same shape and same size, but in a different position. So let's say we have to graph y equals the absolute value of x. So in chapter 5 we graphed using the table. So just for you to refresh your memory, I'm going to graph using a table. So let's say we graph using -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And we're graphing the absolute value of x. That means the absolute value of -2 equals 2. The absolute value of -1 equals 1. The absolute value of 0 equals 0. The absolute value of 1 equals 1. The absolute value of 2 equals 2. If we plot these points, -2 and 2, -1 and 1, 0, 0, 1 and 1, and 2 and 2. You can see how it forms a V shape. So today we're going to be graphing absolute value equations. We're going to use translation to graph these. So let's say we have to graph y equals the absolute value of x plus 3. If we create a table for the absolute value of x plus 3, we can say the absolute value of -2 plus 3 is 5. The absolute value of -1 plus 3 is 4. The absolute value of 0 plus 3 is 3. The value of 1 plus 3 is 4. The absolute value of 2 plus 3 is 5. We plot these points. -2, -1 and 4, 0 and 3. And we can see our graph. Notice that it is exactly the same shape in a different position. Now, if we use, what can we see is the difference between these graphs? What happened? What happened to the V shape? It went up and started at 3, right? So anytime we're graphing the absolute value of x and we're adding a number, we're going to shift up that number of spaces. Now let's say we have y equals the absolute value of x minus 4. If we look at this number after the absolute value, this is minus 4. That means that the graph of y equals the absolute value of x shifts down 4 spaces. And it's exactly the same shape, but in a different position. If we have to graph y equals the absolute value of x plus 6, this number after the absolute value sign tells me to shift up 6 spaces. So from 0 I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And from here I would start plotting the same V shape. because I've shifted the graph. It's the same shape, but in a different position. So it's the same shape of y equals the absolute value of x, which is this red one. What if we had to graph y equals the absolute value of x minus 7? So again, I look at this number after the absolute value, minus 7. This tells me I have to shift down 7 spaces. So I go to 0 and count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And from here, it's the same V shape, same graph in a different position. Graph by translating y equals the absolute value of x. So right here we have to graph y equals the absolute value of x plus 4. This plus 4 tells me that we have to translate the graph of y equals the absolute value of x 4 spaces up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this would be the same shape, but a different position. Same shape, different position. If we have to graph y equals the negative absolute value of x minus 2, now it's the same shape, but because there is a negative sign in front of the absolute value, the V opens downward. Now we're shifting this graph 2 spaces down. 1, 2. Same shape, opening downwards. We have to write an equation for each translation of y equals the absolute value of x. We're translating the graph 8 units down. We would write y equals the absolute value of x minus 8. This tells me that the graph is translated 8 units down. We're translating the graph 8 units up. We would write 6 units up. Y equals the absolute value of x plus 6. So we're going to graph some horizontal translations of y equals the absolute value of x. If we have to graph the translation of y equals the absolute value of x, y equals the absolute value of x minus 3, this means we're translating 3 units to the right. And there's a minus sign that means we move to the right that number of spaces. So we will go 1, 2, 3. And it's the same shape in a different position. If we have to draw the graph for y equals the absolute value of x plus 3, this plus 3 inside the absolute value tells us that it's a translation to the left. So we will move our graph 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left. Same shape, different position. Write an equation for each translation. If we have to translate y equals the absolute value of x 8 units left, what would that equation look like? plus 8 inside the absolute value. And what about if we have to translate 6 units right? X minus 6 inside the absolute value line.